you know how I know that Henry really likes the movie? He flew in from Japan.
Of course.
I'm just throwing that out there.
By the way, have you seen the movie?
Of course, yeah. I love it.
I wasn't sure. Where did you see it?
Huh?
When did you see it?
I'm agency.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, then he
Just
likes
so
the
I know
movie.
what we're talking about.
No, but it's funny because it suddenly comes up on you, and you're not quite sure who's seen it and who hasn't seen it, because it's most movies by this stage I've seen. At this stage of the game, I've seen them 15, 20, 30 times, and I've only seen this movie 3 times or something.
No, once. Uno más. You?
Yeah, I've seen it once. Yeah, I really want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I've seen many.
That actually that's something I wanted to bring up. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with the editing process because ultimately that's the final rewrite. So I'm curious, with your films in general, do they change a lot in the editing room? And let's start with that.
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, I overwrite these things, and I spent years on the dialogue, one way or the other, washing it through, and then you turn up on the day and you go, oh, let's try something else. So sometimes it works, sometimes the rhythm works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes an actor's got a better idea. But you try, as long as you've got a plan, you can stick to the plan until you don't. But it's quite good to have a plan. But yeah, if someone can trump one of my ideas, then I'm going to take the credit. So I'm up for it.
Let me ask you this. Because we've been talking about it a lot today, you do rewrite heavy on the day.
Yeah.
You're like, your mind is hottest and the synapses are clicking in the moment, not 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
Not 2
No,
minutes
I'm
before.
sorry about
Live.
that. Yeah.
No.
I do feel quite guilty about this.
You don't feel that guilty about it.
Well, okay. I'm pretending.
So, do you think, because you say you've been mulling over 2 years working, streaming through the dialogue, right? Yeah, how many times, what percentage of your last idea is your best idea, in retrospect?
Well, I think probably what it is the refining of an idea. So it's rare that I change 100% of what's on the page, but it's probably 20%. And I would say that's just sharpening the pencil. But you're right in the sense that the creative synapses are firing in the moment, much more so than they can really at any other time. But I find this is particularly dialogue heavy, this film, right? And there is a particular cadence and rhythm to the dialogue. So in that sense, when I'm listening to you, as you would have found out, as you're delivering lines, I go, oh, fuck it, the rhythm just isn't quite right. And that does force some introspection and some changes in the moment. But I reckon, the film I'm doing now is almost 90% of the stuff is on the day.
That you wrote.
It's just I have the beginning of the scene, I have the end of the scene, and the purpose of it, and I just do it there and then. And I find that to be very efficient. But this is so dialogue dependent, this one, that I reckon it's 20% sharpening the pencil when the actors are there and you're in the moment. And plus, it's also more fun. These things need to be fun. And there needs to be, I think, some form of creative activity on the day. Otherwise, you sit, there's a dialogue, bosh. And it does feel like there needs to be some participation from all creative personalities.
Well, I mean, you bring up an excellent point because a lot of movie sets, you're dealing with just the script. And with Guy, it's changing all the time. I know that happened with you on the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert. What is it like for the three of you when you're basically being given, it's going to go this way? No, it's going to go this way, right on the day.
You speak for my behalf. I mean, my first reaction was very frustrated with that. I worked on this. I hear this meter. This works. But then what I found is most of the time, Guy's idea in the moment or line change is actually better. And so when it clicked, I get it. That clicks better. Okay, I'm game to get in here and keep juggling the balls and try and make that work. If it wasn't better or it didn't feel like it was better or more true, I'd been frustrated longer. But that got to be. It was obvious very early on. You come in with a lot of agility. You should come in with a lot of agility when you're going to work with Guy, because he's going to have a lot of ideas in the moment, and most of them are going to be better
Yeah.
Here, here. No, but it's funny. As I say, I will. If someone else could trumpet an idea, then I don't care where it comes from. And apparently it happened once. I can't remember where. But no, if it does, and it does, then it does keep the process alive and exciting. Otherwise, you are going to work. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Like once you, like Matthew's saying, it's like once you give into it, and come on set with this, you know, not to expect too much or, you know, to prepare too much. You sort of just go with it. And I think we do, as actors, we sort of live off that adrenaline, and, you know, that sort of feeling of spontaneity is actually quite liberating.
There's nothing like having your bubble burst though, on set just before you're about to.
Yeah, you're not going to do
very,
that.
very big reams of dialogue, and the costume's not right. He's not wearing what he should be wearing. We got to change up the pacing and stuff like that. And so for me on my first day, I don't know if you remember.
I do remember you on your first day.
It was the biggest scene that I had with Matthew, and there was a lot of sort of just getting my outfit right to set the tone for the rest of it. And I do remember sort of just like thinking, fuck, what have I got myself in for? Like, this is an absolute, like, you either sink or swim. It literally is. You're thrown to the sort of sharks as such, and the collaborative spirit is there. It's just, you know, it's really up to you if you partake and sort of have a say in it, or you sit back as an observer, and often it's much more fun when you have your little word in.
I also just figured if it didn't do it, a lot of my performance might end up on the cutting room floor.
That means all of my stuff's
I told myself many times, this movie, he's going to the editing room.
Yeah. I mean, that has happened. Where you can see that someone has a particular idea, and I try and sort of wrestle them away from that idea, and it just keeps coming back in again. And then at a certain point, you go, I'll deal with it later.
I remember at the stadium.
Eh?
I think there were a couple of suggestions at the stadium when we were filming, and you were like, nah, maybe not that, and that was the end of it. Yeah, definitely no more takes.
One of the things about this film is everyone in it looks like they've stepped off like a shoot from GQ. There's just some great costumes. I know you really are on with fashion. Talk a little bit about basically the fashion in the movie and what is your thing with costumes?
Not sure if it's fashion.
She called you a fashionista earlier.
Well, I think what you want is something more classical, and hopefully something. And we made up our mind that we were going down a particular route that was more classical and less susceptible to trends. And I can get quite excited about this particular subject because, yeah, you and I have had this conversation a few times. But yeah, I think it's. In fact, there was I don't think it made the movie, sadly, but there was an enormous philosophical explanation of who wears the clothes, does the clothes wear the man, does the man wear the clothes? And I would have actually liked to have gone, it's a wonderful metaphor for life, right? Who's wearing what? So in part, the film is about, are you wearing the suit or is the suit wearing you? Literally and metaphorically. So you can get pretty philosophical about clothing in general. I don't see clothing as just clothing. I see clothing as a philosophy.
Were you sad it didn't make the movie?
I think it was one scene that could work for an entire movie coming up.
Yeah, no, but incidentally, I think once you bite that off, you've really got to follow. You've got to be consistent and tenacious with that premise. It's in a way, it's almost not worth tickling it. You've really got to grab it if you're gonna.
If you've got time, he's got an hour monologue to give you on resistance and gravity and formation and style.
I'm already giving the wrap-up signal, so I'm going to stop and say that I cannot open that door, but believe me when I say I would have loved to have heard it, and I'm looking forward to trying your whiskey.
Long Branch Bourbon.
I'm sorry, bourbon.
I've only plugged it 72 times.
I apologize, bourbon, my bad. Thank you so much for your time, and congrats on the movie. It's so much fun.